right, ladies and gentlemen, we are just a few days removed from the conclusion of the 2025 NFL draft, which means that your Dynasty rookie drafts are going to be beginning. So, you know what we're going to do. We're going to break down the first real rookie Dynasty draft that our community has had. Let's not waste any time. Let's hop into a rookie draft review. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and start breaking it down. This is a super flex format, tight end premium, play 3 wide receivers in a 2 flex format, just so you guys are aware. Pretty typical dynasty format. And overall, this is the 3rd season for this specific league. So a good competitive league. I don't really think we've had a ton of changes across this league throughout the past couple years. So a tight-knit community here and a competitive league to say the least. But let's go ahead and start breaking it down. Obviously, right off the board at the 1.1 and the 1.2, we saw Ashton Genty and Omarion Hampton off of the board. I don't think there's going to be like any big surprise regardless of format across your dynasty leagues. It looks like the running back revolution is here based on what happened last year with guys like Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, and there's just so much more belief in the running back position moving forward. And plus, Genty and Hampton, just due to the nature of this class, looking at wide receivers and quarterbacks, are the most talented players and have the most upside in terms of fantasy. So I'm not going to waste your guys' time there. Genty with the Raiders, Hampton with the Chargers, both good landing spots. They're going to be atop of the board in most of your guys' drafts. But things do get a little bit interesting after those 2 running backs are gone, right? We see Travion Henderson gone at the 1.3, obviously landing with the New England Patriots. I'm fine with him at the 1.3. I really think when you look like cross from the 1.3 to the end of the first, I mean, there's some debate here, but a lot of these players could go anywhere just due to the specific needs of each roster. So I'm okay with Henderson there. I personally probably would have gone with Ted McMillan, who we do see off the board at the 1.4. But when it comes to Dynasty, there's so much variation across, different builds, different strategies, and different needs on teams. So I'm okay with Henderson there. I'm okay with him being the 3rd running back off of the board as well. Like I said, I probably would have gone with Ted McMillan, but needs can always be different here. And I do like McMillan gone at the 1.4 as the first wide receiver off the board. And once again, don't want to waste your guys' time here, but I do believe that Ted McMillan is going to be the first wide receiver taken in most dynasty rookie drafts coming up. There is some debate there with Travis Hunter in the mix, especially in IDP formats, but that's a topic for another day. Then we do see the first quarterback off of the board at the 1.5 in Cam Ward. And I do know the team that selected Cam Ward there was in need of some quarterback help. So I know that was a big move for them. Completely okay with Cam Ward going at the 1.5. I do think like Cam Ward could go much earlier as well. Once again, based on specific team needs, I think you could see Cam Ward go as early as the 1.3 and arguably maybe even sooner, but I think in that scenario you would see a trade back. So Cam Ward gone at the 1.5, obviously going to be the first quarterback taken in your rookie drafts. I don't think there's going to be anybody else jumping Cam Ward in upcoming rookie drafts, so I'm fine with him there at the 1.5. Then things really get interesting for me, essentially from the 1.6 all the way into the first and arguably somewhat into the beginning of the 2nd round as well. And I do think that once again, it's going to depend on team needs and all that stuff as we start to break down what players should be going over these next couple of selections. But this is what happened in this specific draft. We had Tyler Warren gone at the 1.6, landing with the Indianapolis Colts. I'm okay with this. I am kind of feeling like I'm a little bit higher on Loveland, Colston Loveland, who landed with the Bears. I do think he's going to have a nice role with the Bears, but I know there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. I know Cole Kmet is still hanging around, but I just think we look at Ben Johnson, what he, was able to do with Sam Laporta with the Lions at the tight end position. I think that Loveland could have a very productive year, but I also kind of have some fear he could kind of be in that like Dalton Kincaid type category where the production just isn't quite enough. And I personally have this fear of tight ends who go to the Colts that like the Colts feel like this team that always tends to waste talent at the tight end position. So I'm a little bit worried about Tyler Warren, but I'm okay. Like whatever tight end you prefer here, if that is a need for your team, if you want to draft them this early, I think that is perfectly okay. If you look at this specific team, Tox's team here, I mean, he had 3 picks in the first round, ended up with Cam Ward, Tyler Warren, and Quinshon Judkins. So plenty of talent for him across the board here in his specific team. So once again, Dynasty can come down to a lot of different variables, depending on who is going to be selected, right? So we get Tyler Warren gone. We went over Loveland at the 1.10, and now we do see Travis Hunter gone at the 1.7. I really think you could see Travis Hunter go at all kinds of different points in the first round. And let's just stick to this specific format. No IDP, nothing like that. No, consideration for him getting points as a defensive back, right? But at the end of the day, I think he could go much, much earlier. I think 1.7 makes sense. It's just going to depend on needs and all of that. But, the question in the air kind of remains the same here. How exactly is Travis Hunter going to be used with the Jaguars? How many offensive snaps is he going to play? How many defensive snaps is he going to play? We all know the story here, but the talent, the upside is 110% there, even with Brian Thomas Jr. as the wide receiver 1 on this team at the moment. Hunter can still have a very feasible role within the Jaguars offense. So, obviously the Jags, spending some draft capital moving up to select him, they are going to have a plan for Travis Hunter. We all know this. So I think he could go much earlier in rookie drafts, but he's gone at the 1.7 in this specific draft. Then we see 2 running backs off the board back to back here, Quinshon Judkins and Caleb Johnson. And then at the 112, we also have RJ Harvey off the board. These 3 running backs, I personally really, really like right now. And I do think some people may debate like Trayvon Henderson could be a little bit closer to these running backs. Once again, it's just all dependent on, your specific league and team needs, all that stuff that we've already gone over. But these are the running backs that I think have just a tremendous amount of value where they're being selected at. For me specifically, I'm very high on RJ Harvey at the moment. I think a lot of people are kind of eyeing in on who are the Broncos going to select at the running back position. They did not go running back in the first round, but they ended up getting RJ Harvey in round 2. And I think he's just going to have a massive role within this offense. That's what they're drafting him to do. That's what the hope is. It's not going to be Audric Estime or Tyler Batty or anyone else on this roster at the moment. Jaleel McLaughlin as well. There's no more Javonte Williams. I just feel good about RJ Harvey. I feel very good about the Broncos offense as a whole going into the following season. So I love RJ Harvey off of the board at the 1.12, but I also really like Quinshon Judkins and I really like Caleb Johnson. I think these are 2 guys who could come in and end up being the RB1s, but we look at Judkins. Obviously, Dylan Sampson also was drafted to the Browns. He could have a role there. And you still have Jerome Ford, I guess, hanging around too. Caleb Johnson, obviously, you still have Jalen Warren. And I think it's worth mentioning Kenneth Gainwell is a player on that team. I mean, there's other running backs here too. But both of these guys, these are the fresh legs. These are the explosive players, the young talent here. Both these guys are going to get a lot of touches, change of pace, whatever it's going to be. And I think they are both very good values at the 1.8 and the 1.9 there if you're looking for running back help. Now, wrapping up the first round here, there's a player, one left here, at the wide receiver position, Emeka Egbuka, who, for me, I think there's kind of this fear now. Like, obviously, he's still going to go in the first round, but there's kind of this fear like he's going into an offense that has so many weapons at the wide receiver position already. And I mean, at the running back position, at the tight end position as well. I mean, Rachaad White and Bucky Irving can both catch the football. Rachaad White a little bit more at that role, but then you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and my guy Jalen McMillan, all at the wide receiver position already. And then don't forget, Kate Otten had some really good games last year, especially when some of those wide receivers missed time. So a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of pass catchers on this team. It's going to scare some fantasy managers, but I think you got to take the talent here. This is kind of like a similar situation like JSN going to the Seahawks in his rookie season. And, also kind of a comp for Egbuka is JSN, right? But, you look at having DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in front of him. It took a little bit of time. I think that it could take some time for that to develop for Emeka Egbuka as well. But at the end of the day, the talent is there. This was a rookie who I was personally very, very high on going into the NFL draft. And I don't want to stray away from his landing spot going to the Bucs, right? This is still going to be an offense that's going to throw the football a ton. Might take a little bit of time, but in Dynasty, you do have time for the most part, unless you traded away all your picks for the next 2 years and you're going full all in. So I'm okay with him going in the first round. Absolutely. And I am personally not scared of his production, although it may just take a little bit of time for him to completely get going. Let's move into the second round here, and we're going to start the second round with two wide receivers off of the board. And these are two guys that I think you could see sneak into the first round, specifically Matthew Golden. I don't know if Luther Burden's necessarily going to, but I think they're both fine here at the beginning of the second round. Matthew Golden going into a situation that, he's talked about offense with a lot of pass catchers. The Packers do have a lot of pass catchers. Okay, we got Jaden Reed, we have the ghost of Christian Watson, we have Romeo Dobbs, we have Dontavion Wicks, we have Tucker Kraft, and then we still have a solid run game behind Josh Jacobs, although he does not get a ton of work through the passing game. But listen, I think what the Packers have been looking for is consistency at the wide receiver position. And I still think that Jaden Reed, as aggravating as he was last year as a fantasy uh, player, right? He was still a decent overall wide receiver, but not a true wide receiver one. And that's what this team is missing. And that is what they are trying to achieve in terms of drafting Matthew Golden. So I think Golden's a really good value. But once again, there is going to be a lot of competition for snaps. And the Packers showed last year like they are comfortable running the football first and foremost, although, Jordan Love got injured early on in the season, which kind of impacted things as well. So I like Golden here, and I still like Luther Burden. I know there's another situation, a lot of mouths to feed. What exactly is the timeshare going to look like here in terms of passing volume? It's hard to say. We got DJ Moore, we got Roma Dunze, we got Colson Loveland at tight end, and Cole Kmet, and DeAndre Swift is still a running back who will catch the football out of the backfield here and there. So revamped offensive line. The Bears offense looks pretty good going into the season. Luther Burden is going to be a slot receiver, in my opinion. I think some were hoping that Roma Dunze would be, which could still happen, I suppose. But, it's just tough to say here. But I do think that Luther Burden is going to have a nice role within this offense. A lot of upside. Don't forget, the very beginning of draft season, this was a player who was being looked at as a first-round talent. So I like this landing spot, but I don't know if the fantasy production is going to be something that is going to be consistent. I worry a little bit more about Burden than I do the other two wide receivers we just talked about, but I still like Luther Burden. I'm not completely off of him. I think him going at the 2.2 is completely fine. The next up at the running back position, we got everybody's guy, Cam Scatterbo. And he lands with the Giants. So Tyrone Tracy truthers, pour one out, right? And I'm a Tracy truther, but I think at the end of the day, right, these two running backs are going to have to split time. We could see more Tracy. We could see Scatterbo kind of rise up here. You still have Devin Singletary and Eric Gray on this roster, but it's kind of hard to say. But I definitely think that is perfectly okay for him to be the next running back off of the board here in the second. I think he's going to be a player who you could see at different points in drafts because there are a lot of players who are a lot of fantasy managers who are high on him and aren't going to be afraid to kind of quote unquote reach for him. But I'm completely okay with him at the 2.3. But like I said, keep in mind, Tyrone Tracy, I still think is the RB1 for the time being for the Giants. But with that being said, I mean, this Giants offense looks much better going into next year. We have the craziest quarterback room, arguably, in the NFL with Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Tommy DeVito, and now rookie Jackson Dart. And then we have enough pass catchers. At least we got Malik Neighbors, right? Theo Johnson, a decent tight end, Darius Slayton, Rondell Robinson. So they look better than they did last year, I think we could argue. And I think Scatterbo could definitely help contribute to that. Next up, we have Bashal Tutin, who goes at the 2.4 here, landing with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I do think is a good landing spot. I do think that Tutin is a very exciting prospect. I think it's a good selection by the Jaguars. But we still have Etienne and Tank Bigsby on this team in front of him. There's a lot of rumors that Travis Etienne could get released and or traded. We'll see what happens there. But I do think that Tutin is talented enough to overcome both of these running backs or just take over Etienne's kind of role within that offense. So I'm okay with this selection here at the 2.4. And once again, I feel kind of good about the Jags going into next year. Offensive line has got a little bit better. Trevor Lawrence should be healthy. We have a new head coach. Got a couple of running backs here. B. Tom at the wide receiver position. And now we add Travis Hunter to this offense as well. So we'll see what happens. Then at the 2.5, we have our next quarterback off the board. And me personally, while I do think, there's obviously a lot of quarterbacks, like we just mentioned, in front of Jackson Dart, I'm not afraid in Superflex leagues to draft Jackson Dart a little bit more aggressive. And if you guys remember kind of early in the off season, so to speak, right, when we were first kind of discussing rookie landing spots as well as rookie potential draft spots, I was kind of high on Jackson Dart, and I still kind of feel that way. I do think eventually this is going to be the starting quarterback for the Giants, but obviously there's enough veteran presence in front of him that he's going to kind of fall back in drafts. But if you have a need at the quarterback position, in superflex formats, I'm not afraid to take Jackson Dart if it is applicable to your personal team. All right, and let's just go ahead and knock out the other two quarterbacks gone here in the second round. We do see Shadur Sanders off the board at the 2.8, and we do see Jalen Milroe at the 2.9. I think that Shadur Sanders could go a lot of different places on a lot of different drafts. I think he'll probably go closer to the third and maybe even in some drafts fourth round. It's just a very tough situation to evaluate. We all know what happened on draft day. We all know that there's all kinds of things coming out around Shadur Sanders right now, and he has got Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel, the other rookie quarterback, all on this roster as well. Although Deshaun Watson, his status very questionable for the coming season due to injury, right? So I don't know that I love Sanders in the second round, but I think that, dependent on team needs, this could be a player that you see go at the end of the second round, like happened in this draft. And this specific team that did draft him does have a need at the quarterback position, but Jalen Milroe was also available there at the 2.8. So we'll see what happens here. I don't mind Milroe in a superflex format also going in the 2.9. We obviously know that he has a lot of upside. We look at this quarterback room right now, it's just Sam Darnold and Drew Lock in front of him. So there could be some potential there for Milroe in Seattle as well. So I think this all comes down when we look at Sanders and Milroe to specific team needs. I think both these guys could go later in rookie drafts, but in this specific one, they did fall to the 2.8 and the 2.9. Now, looking at the wide receivers in this round, right, we got Jaden Higgins, who ended up landing with the Texans. Not just Jaden Higgins, but his teammate, Jalen Noel, also landed with the Texans. And the Texans, one of these teams, right? They went out and signed Christian Kirk, my guy, and they still got Nico Collins at wide receiver, but they went out and drafted two wide receivers as well who have a lot of upside. So I think that Higgins could play a large role within this offense, could even maybe beat out Christian Kirk for some of those snaps. So I'm okay with this selection of Higgins at the 2.6, but I really like the value on Trey Harris, gone at the 2.7, landed with the Chargers. I think this is a player who can come in and have an immediate impact with the Chargers and play a large role within this offense as the wide receiver too. I really think that he can overcome, not that this is anything crazy, but guys like Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston, and just about anybody else on this roster at the wide receiver position outside of Ladd McConkey. So I do like the value there on Trey Harris. I think it is absolutely phenomenal, and a player that if you're kind of in that end of the second round territory, middle of the second round territory, I would be targeting personally. And I also really like Jack Beck, gone or landed with the Raiders, gone at the 2.10 here. This is another player who I think can basically outwork any wide receiver on this team outside of Jacoby Myers and have a wide receiver 2 type upside, right? I know that Brock Bowers is going to eat into that a bit, but I really like Jack Beck as a prospect, as I liked Trey Harris as well. I think both these guys got good landing spots and could end up being very, very good values where they went in this specific draft. And then we also have Kyle Williams, who I think was a steal for the Patriots. The Patriots did a lot in this draft that I thought was very good. Obviously, this is a weak wide receiver room. You got a veteran in Stephon Diggs, and he got a ton of guys, right? They did sign Mac Hollins, stole him from the Bills, but they also got Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne. We saw how this Patriots wide receiver room was last year. I absolutely hated it from a fantasy perspective, as did everybody else who played fantasy football last year. And I think that Kyle Williams could come in and have an immediate impact to this roster and Drake May in his sophomore season. So I like Kyle Williams at the end of the second as well. Really, those kind of, all the wide receivers in the second round, I absolutely think have good value, but kind of those middle into the second round guys, tons of value there. Then one last player here in the second round is Jordan James, who landed with the San Francisco 49ers, was selected 147th overall to the Niners, like I just said, and has gone to the 2.11 right here. So, I do think that there's going to be some fantasy managers willing to go out and, there's obviously only so much talent here, depending on how you want to look at it. And obviously, a lot of fantasy managers looking at Christian McCaffrey and really what is the future here for the Niners running back position. Well, my opinion is it is just Christian McCaffrey until further notice, but obviously the injuries and everything that happened last season are looming over him, and we saw kind of a plethora of different running backs be implemented into this offense last year due to not just injuries to Christian McCaffrey, but just about every other running back on this team. So Jordan James, I'm good with it. I feel like there's always this kind of perceived upside with Niners running backs in a Kyle Shanahan offense. And the once again idea that there's going to be probably some sort of injuries to other running backs on that team in that same system. So I'm okay with that selection at the 2.11. Then I'll let you guys just kind of take a look here at the board if you haven't been doing so already to kind of hone in on the third and fourth rounds. And then I'll kind of just go over a couple names here. Dylan Sampson at the 3.4. This is a player who's going to be really interesting to see. Sampson versus Judkins, who we kind of mentioned earlier in the video, and how their roles end up looking. And there are some people who believe that Sampson could end up maybe looking better than Judkins, or both of them could come out and just be a duo. I think that Sampson is totally worth the selection at the 3.4 because the Browns, are obviously not going to have Nick Chubb on this roster next year. Jerome Ford is going into his fourth season. And Jerome Ford has had some flashes, but nothing spectacular. And they are looking for their RB1, and they have two very good prospects, very good rookies in order to do so. We do see Jalen Noel gone at the 3.5. I like that selection as well. I really like Devin Neal at the 3.7, who landed with the Saints. Obviously, he's got Alvin Kamara in front of him, but you look at the rest of this roster at running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kendre Miller, just nothing that really scares me. And Devin Neal is a prospect that had a lot of upside coming into this draft as well. So I like Devin Neal a lot at the 3.7. Think it is a overall very good selection. DJ Giddens did go at the 3.8. That was actually my selection. This is a league where I've tried to go all in for the past 2 seasons. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys are in the league, I think year one, I was 5th place, and last year I was 3rd place. If I was going to win the chip, it probably was going to be last year. But nonetheless, I need some running back depth on this team, and I basically had no selections in this draft. I ended up with DJ Giddens and Dylan Gabriel. So at the end of the day, I just taken a long shot guy that I can throw on my taxi squad and hope that it works out, or there's some sort of production as he is looking at the RB2 or a chance to fight to be the RB2 behind Jonathan Taylor. JT did miss some time last year, so we'll find out. I like Devin Neal in terms of running backs the most out of this round. I will say that Ollie Gordon could be interesting, but I think that Devon Achane still running that backfield. But obviously, there is some concern for injury there. Now, I will say Mason Taylor is a player at the tight end position that I like a lot at the 3.9. I think he can kind of walk in and be the true tight end one for the Jets, so we'll see what happens there. Also see wide receiver Alec Ayomaner off the board at the 3.11, and this is another player with a lot of upside going into an interesting offense with Will Levis as a rookie quarterback. One thing I always talk about is rookie quarterbacks who go into their rookie season with a rookie wide receiver. That connection can be really strong just due to training camp and all of that. So I do think that that was a really good value pick at the 3.11 and a player that I kind of like at the end of rookie drafts at the moment. Then very quickly through the 4th round, there's a lot of names we could go over here. I do like the selection of Jalen Royals at the 4.4. I mean, every year there's another Chiefs wide receiver who we're going to get some buzz about in the offseason. Take a shot. The upside's there. We know this offense. We know this system. I like him at the 4.4. And outside of that, I don't think there's a ton worth mentioning, but you guys can take a look at who was selected in the 3rd and 4th round on the board as well. Taxi squad players. Maybe there's some upside. Let me know who you guys like the most in terms of who was selected in the 3rd and 4th round outside of the names that I went over. And overall, let me know how you guys felt about this rookie draft. Like I said, this was a real rookie draft for a real Dynasty league, super flex format, tight end premium, play 3 wide receivers, 2 flex spots, ongoing league with some of our OG subscribers to the channel, members of the community that I'm very, very thankful for. One of the best overall Dynasty leagues that The Catch runs every single year here on the channel. So let me know what you guys think overall of this rookie draft. Let me know what you guys need in terms of questions for your upcoming rookie draft, and we'll be continuing to start our off-season content here at The Catch. So like always, if you guys have any fantasy football questions whatsoever, be sure to drop them in the comments section down below. I'll get back to every comment on this video. If you guys are new to the channel, we do best ball, dynasty, and redraft fantasy football content all year long. So make sure that you guys are subscribed. And with that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.